Matthew.
Matthew.
Thank you for joining me again.
It's a pleasure as always.
It's January in 2020. You know what that means?
Time to talk about last year.
Yeah, only slightly late. But we're not like those other popular YouTube channels that wait. Rather we do wait.
If we get this up before the Oscars, then we're not late.
When is the Oscars?
Soon.
Okay. Without further ado, then, why don't we jump right... Well, actually, any comments on the year overall?
Nope.
Okay. Let's talk about our 10th favorite game of the year, Death Stranding.
The latest opus from Kojima and his team in Japan.
I feel like well, I don't feel like I know that you wouldn't have put this on our top 10 if not for me. So I feel like it's my place to defend it. But you liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah. You had some feelings.
It was a game that often tested the player's patience.
Yes. And you're not sure how intentional that was?
No, I think it was intentional.
But you also don't necessarily like it.
Doesn't mean I would like it.
Yeah. I enjoyed actually enjoyed the basic gameplay possibly more than the story, and I wonder if that makes me a bit of an outlier. Because I enjoyed this sort of dopamine rush of I spent all the last hour collecting all these materials to build this road, and I just did it. Yeah. Now I can make a delivery 30 seconds faster, or whatever.
Yeah. Actually, so the basics of moving around and delivering the packages and all that was cool. Like the way the character moves and the weight of him.
Yeah.
It feels really good. It's just there's lots of stuff in the game that distracts from that, like the weird stealth sections that...
Like the BTs.
Yeah, I didn't like that stuff as much. And by the end of the story, there's interesting stuff in the story, but by the end I was found it very slow to just get to the point.
Do we need to relitigate what Death Stranding is? People know. People aren't watching this if they don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, they probably know. It's a weird game where you
make
carrying packages
deliveries
across a destroyed America.
Yeah, it was one of those games that while it was coming out, everyone was like, "What is this game? We have no idea."
Well, that's because they never really said until near the end. They were just showing weird imagery in the trailers.
Occasionally, you'd see a GIF of him carrying a dead body on his back, and you'd be like, "What is that all about?"
Yeah.
Or he had a big ladder. I agree with a lot of the complaints about the game that the story was kind of bloated and also ham-fisted and a little dumb in parts. But I had also some genuine emotional reactions to some things and a lot of interesting ideas. Kojima is a good ideas man.
Yeah.
So all in all, 10th best game of the year.
Number 10.
Better luck next time. But talk to me about our 9th favorite game, which is Fire Emblem Three Houses.
You played a little bit of this.
I've played, yeah. I have not. This is my first Fire Emblem game I've ever played.
Okay.
And I think for me, it had a slow start. Also, maybe I just wasn't in the mood to play that type of game or whatever. But once I got into more of the battles and actually started understanding what the flow of the game was, I started to like it more.
Yeah, it's a little... So I've played, I think, only one other Fire Emblem game, but in that one, it was pretty much just story, battle.
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, you become a teacher at this monastery that trains officers for this nation's armies. And so, a big part of the game is just, exploring the monastery and choosing what to teach your students to make them better soldiers or leaders. And that's a huge part of the game if you get into it. But the combat, the fighting, it's still there. Still the same sort of tactical battles where a lot of people say the game is easy, and I understand that from the sense that there's a way to easily reverse a bad decision. You can kind of go back in time, and it's not too hard to just finish battles if you're not worried about being perfect. But I thought it was, especially by the end, the challenge was fine.
It's funny you mentioned easy because I was having trouble because all my characters seem underleveled, and then I realized I should be doing more of these battles and pushing through it in the free time. And once I did that, I'm kind of now overpowered. So it's fine if you just train up your characters a bit.
Yeah, and I think it's a good game for people who are big fans of the series because you can turn up the difficulty, and there's lots of there's three different main paths in the game, so there's lots of replayability.
It seems pretty customizable as far as the difficulty goes.
But I think it's also a good first Fire Emblem because it's got a really cool story with interesting characters.
Well, it's interesting that you say the professor and teaching stuff is new, and is the exploring around the monastery stuff pretty much new?
Yeah.
Oh, that's super weird because I shouldn't say it was weird, but having never played another one, I just kind of assumed that's the way that it went.
The last game I played was Awakening, and in that the only thing you were doing besides fighting was just using a menu to buy and repair equipment and talk to your units.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems cool. I'm interested to play more, but I like what I've played so far.
You can tell that it was successful with the characters because there's 30 anime characters in this game. You can actually know who they are just by looking at them. And
by the end of 2022, I want them all in Smash Bros. All right, I'm giving them a deadline.
They got time for that.
Yeah. Let's talk about number 8. Why don't you say what it is without looking at your sheet?
I already looked.
Damn it!
It's The Outer Worlds.
The Outer Worlds. Matt, talk to me about Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds. It's a new first-person action RPG by Obsidian.
Immersive sim.
Sort of. It's more of... it's got that element, but it's also got the RPG stuff.
I wanted to just rile your feathers by saying it was an immersive sim, but it didn't
I don't know why that would rile me, but... it's sort of similar to their last big 3D game, which was...
rile your feathers is not a phrase.
Rile my feathers.
Ruffle your feathers.
Ruffle my...
What can I rile? We're getting off topic. This is why our channel is bad. Continue.
It's a very good channel. It's like their last game, which is Fallout New Vegas. That was our last big published game.
Which everyone loved.
Yeah. Well, after that was patched up, it was kind of rough when it came out. But it's sort of similar where you are this guy who shows up in this place he's never been before, which in this case is a planet far away from where he was born because he was on this colony ship that was supposed to go to this colony.
Yeah.
But
it's a colony of planets.
Well, so it's a solar system colony, but their ship was lost for decades, and so there's this whole society already there that he doesn't understand, and you can kind of just do what you want. You can there's lots of combat with random bandits and alien monsters, but there's also you can talk to people and figure things out that way if you prefer that.
I think and that's I had all my points in persuasion and stuff like that. I didn't really engage that much with the combat because I kind of didn't think the combat was anything to write home about anyways.
It's not great, but it is. I think it's better than
one of those games.
One of those games usually are.
I think the real selling point of Outer Worlds for me is just the world building and the capitalist critique. It's kind of people compared it visually to BioShock before it came out, but I think what it has more to do with BioShock is what happens if crazy quasi-libertarian or capitalist policies go unchecked in a weird colony somewhere.
It's very satirical.
Yeah. Whereas BioShock is more horrific and collapsing society type stuff. Outer Worlds is more just dystopian, horrible corporate futurism.
Yeah. There's lots of little weird elements in the story, but when you actually get to where it all ties together, it actually does so in I thought a surprisingly interesting way. There's all these different things I didn't realize were connected until it became obvious.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And also the companion characters I liked a lot. There's only 6 of them, but they're generally well developed and their quests are interesting.
Yeah. I think it in a way was, I think this is an echoed sentiment, but it was more interesting for me, I guess, at the beginning and then tapered off a little for me at the end. Which is not to say the end was bad or anything, but I kind of lost interest. I wanted more hooks to be.
I think the ending.
Cheeks.
I thought the end was fine, but the middle is kind of where it.
Maybe that's where it started to lose me.
Yeah, and if you get lost in the middle, then you just want to finish it by the end, and you're not really as invested because you just want to finish. But
should they make an Outer Worlds 2?
Definitely.
Outer Worlds TOO.
Outer Worlds as well.
Outer Worlds also.
More Outer Worlds.
Then let's roll right into our number 7 game of the year, which is the remake of The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. I have a love-hate with Zelda, as I've said many times.
I just have a love.
Matt just has a love with Zelda. I have a love-hate. And most of the time it's just because I want Zelda to be a little more innovative and a little more risky with some of its plot and characters and things like that. Or dialogue. What was interesting to me then about Link's Awakening, which I had actually never played the original, was I feel like it got rid of a lot of like dialogue, like very simple dialogue, one or two little lines, and then it would move on to something, and that actually worked better for me, where it was just like a simple classic Zelda game.
Well, yeah, that's how it was when it came out, and
Right.
like later Zelda games, they got more verbose
Yeah.
without actually really getting more sophisticated.
That's
just explained
exactly.
more.
Like they talk endless. That's part of my issues. They talk endlessly about stuff that I do not care about. Whereas I'd rather just get the information out and I can go back to fighting moblins in the forest.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a lot. I thought it was very fun. It was like kind of a can't put it down type thing. And I actually went like on vacation right when it came out, so it was like the perfect Switch time for me. And I kind of blitzed through that game. I don't know if I want to go back to the original because it sounds like the quality of life improvements are quite drastic.
Yeah, so the original Link's Awakening is probably my favorite 2D Zelda, and this is like the kind of remake where it just recaptures that feeling of playing it, where it looks better, it plays just as well, and like there's tons of little like improvements, like the controls. The Game Boy only had 2 buttons, so everything was mapped to those, whereas in this game you have your own shield button, a sword button.
You don't have to item switch constantly, which I imagine sounds like the original
it's just
would be.
a better play experience as long as you don't mind the stuttering.
That's the funniest thing is that like that's the biggest knock I've heard against the game, and that like almost didn't happen for me at all. So I'm like a huge outlier as far as that's concerned, I guess.
I think I got used to it, but it was still very distracting at times.
My biggest issue was just the last 2 dungeons were, in my opinion, pretty bad. Just tedious shit. Like, go up to the top floor. Oh no, there's a switch blocking your path. You had to hit this button, go all the way down to the first floor, and figure out where it is. Genius.
Yeah.
That shit was annoying. Also, dark. Kind of a dark game. Kind of a dark ending.
It's got one of those good Zelda stories where it actually does something interesting and different. In this case, it was.
That and Majora's Mask.
Yeah, those are the two. Those are the 2 good ones as far as story
The 2
goes.
good Zelda games. All right, fantastic. Let's talk about our number 6 game, which is
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order
:1.
number 1.
I like Fallen Order a lot.
Me too.
I liked it a lot. All right, so number 5. Let's talk about it. A lot of Star Wars shit this year.
Yeah,
There's the movie and all of the comic books
TV shows
and all the TV shows like The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
But I thought I was excited about Fallen Order coming up because it's a Souls-like. I'm a known Souls-liker. And I thought it was very competently done. This may be the first Star Wars game I've ever played outside
Really?
of I rented like the one for N64.
huh?
But I'm not one of those guys who grew up playing a bunch of them.
Yeah, I've played a few, and this is a good one.
This is a good one.
This is a good one. Yeah, it's just the Souls design elements, while not really justified, are.
You mean meditating shouldn't bring everyone back to life around you and stuff like that?
Anyway, but the combat is fun, and like those elements, they work because they're tested and
Yes.
successful. And
Solid formula.
there's some cool level design, how it loops back on itself like a Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
And
The level design was good. I think that's actually maybe the number one area where I saw a bit of a marked difference between it and Souls, is that Souls, the environment really becomes like a character almost, in that you know it like the back of your hand, you repeat it over and over again. There were a lot of parts in Fallen Order, especially in that one Zepho or whatever it was, where I would get crazy lost. I'd just be like, this is too complex in my opinion. But the map was good. If it was a true Souls, like, it wouldn't have a map.
well, yeah.
Matthew.
Well, yeah, there's like sort of like a Metroidvania type
Yeah.
influence as well,
for
because
sure.
like you unlock powers that give you new abilities
That's true.
to move around, and then you can
There's
look at the
more
map and it will
Metroidvania
show
than
you
Souls ever is,
like,
yeah.
oh, you can go here now.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a mix of influences.
The basic combat was very good, though. And actually, as much as people say Souls-like, it was very much like, and I think you noted this, Sekiro.
Yeah.
In terms of having like a posture meter and like breaking that and actually doing
Well,
damage through that.
It's more deflection based.
Sure. Yeah, parry-based stuff. And I thought the characters were good. The main character's like a little bit of a blank slate, but I liked all the what's her name, Deborah Wilson's character, and
Seer.
the man, the little man who looks like Danny DeVito.
Griffin McElroy.
Yeah, something like that. And even the second sister, she was cool.
Yeah, the Mustafar character.
Yeah, we have to have a masked Darth Vader.
Or
stand
not
in.
Mustafar. Is that Mustafar?
Mustafar is the
Dathomir.
lava planet.
Dathomir.
Oh yeah, the witch lady you're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about the other character.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, the witch lady.
Well, she was called a Night Sister,
She was
right?
my goth girlfriend.
Two
Yeah,
different
she was a
characters
night
with
sister.
with
I said
sister.
second sister. Yes.
Confusing.
No, different.
It's also the Ninth Sister.
Yes, she was punk. I didn't think I'd killed her when I beat her in the boss battle.
Yeah.
Because she like fell out of frame.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's definitely coming back. But also, I kicked her butt.
Come back in the sequel.
Whatever, doesn't matter. So that's Jedi Fallen Order. Let's talk about number 5.
Number 5.
Outer Wilds.
Outer Wilds.
Not to be confused with Outer Worlds.
Very different.
The Outer Worlds.
Somewhat different game. They're both about
Yeah,
space
they're both about
explorers.
space. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Outer Wilds?
You give it to me.
I give it to you. You feel more strongly about this game than I do.
It's a little hard to explain easily, but
Take it from the top.
You are this
It's Majora's
explorer,
Mask.
this alien explorer who wants to explore their solar system, and you have this spaceship, and you can get on the spaceship and go out into space, but 20 minutes later, the sun blows up,
Oh shit.
and it takes you with it, and then you wake up back where you started. So there's this time loop in the game, and your goal is really to understand the time loop and hopefully try to avert it, because it's obviously bad that the sun is exploding.
Yes.
So you go all around the system. There's like 6 or 7 planets that all have their own unique properties
Quirks.
that are interesting and weird and a challenge to navigate.
Yes.
And you are finding like ruins of this ancient civilization that had been there before, and their writings, and you can decipher those writings to try and
Yeah.
piece together the story of what
A
happened.
lot of translating alien texts to
Yeah.
kind of get what's going on. And what's interesting about the time loop thing and like progression is that, I mean, can't you like wake up and beat it in the first cycle?
Sure, yeah.
Do you need to actually have the sun go nova the first time?
No,
for
I
it to
think
work?
you could just finish it without ever seeing the sun explode if you knew what you were doing.
If you know exactly where to go, yes, you can finish it. I do like this game a lot. I have an asterisk because I think it's kind of one of those games that by nature you're going to have your own experience with it, and everyone's experience is going to be kind of different because it is so open. You can kind of do what you want and interpret it how you want. I will say, to me, this is like one of the scariest horror games I've played in years, just because I don't like big open like voids. So
This game's got some voids in it.
this game got voids. Flying into space alone is like uncomfortable for me. Flying near like a large body in a vacuum, like flying into the sun even, is scary for me. There's a point in the game where you fall into a black hole and get instantly transmitted to like the edge of the solar system with nothing but like blank open space behind you. So it's just a series of like, oh, and I don't like being underwater too. So there's a planet where you have to go underwater.
And there's like these giant tornadoes.
Yeah. Everything in the game is like
It's scary. It's a
pinpointed
scary
to
game.
like unsettle me, and that's the thing, is like unsettling. I would say it's not like, I'm not talking about jump scares, but I think the fish they intended to be scary. I don't think the rest of it is necessarily intentionally scary.
I don't think it was not intended to be scary.
Sure,
It's just, I mean, it's like
creepy. I don't know.
like just space is so big that it's like naturally scary to people, I think.
Yes, but where I take some issue with the game is just like, I just didn't have a fun time doing a lot of it because I, like this one like I said, the black hole thing, I literally fell in that black hole accidentally like 4 times, and it was just like, fuck, because you're doing like first person platforming, which is not always the best. That being said, I love the ideas of it. I love like just open world where I can explore and like just read about shit and like kind of uncover the past and make these connections. And some of the some of the puzzles and the ways that you're moving forward are really interesting, and like all the quantum stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to mention the probe.
Yeah.
It's like one of the only tools you have, and it's like so useful in like all these different ways that you can like learn as you play the game.
Yeah.
Like ways you didn't even expect that are actually really important.
So, good.
It's a good game.
It is a very good game. I could see.
It definitely has elements that could frustrate you.
I could see it being like one of people's favorites of the decade, just because of like the sort of passionate responses it has from people. And I ultimately did push through and liked it. It was just there was that one moment where I just kept falling over and over. I was just like, I might quit playing this game. So be patient, you know.
Also, if you don't want to wait to die, you can just quit out of the game and start over.
That's true. That is true.
Hot tip.
Hot tip. We do hot tips on this channel.
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 4 game of the year, Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium is a a very text-heavy, what do you call it? Almost point-and-click adventure game.
I would call it a role-playing game that kind of plays more like a
There is a role-playing
a point-and-click adventure game.
Yes. You play as a detective who has woken up and completely lost his memory, and you are in a hotel trying to solve a murder case of a man hanging outside your window, basically. And you kind of have to pick up the pieces of your own life and kind of start to put them together as you're also trying to solve the case. So right off the bat, it's like kind of a weird, awkward scenario where you've got your partner arriving there and who's supposed to help you with the case, and you have to make the decision of like, do I tell him I've completely lost my memory and my gun and my badge? And
you might not have found your second shoe yet.
Right.
I walked around the entire first day. I only had one shoe.
Really?
Because I
found that shit right away.
Well, I failed a test to locate it.
So I love this game. I don't know how you feel about it as compared to me, but like, it was a constant wonder to me because it did the thing that I've been wanting it to do for a long time, where there's a lot of games that have like morality bars or whatever, where you're either a good character or you're an evil character. And I've always thought that that's a really sophomoric approach to like human emotion and alignment, where things are more on a spectrum. And I thought for a while they should make a game that like accounts for like human emotions, like sadness and anger and stuff like that. But actually, Disco is even deeper than that, I think, where it's more sort of abstract concepts of like what makes a human what they are.
Well, it has like emotional stuff, but it also has just like political beliefs.
Yes, exactly. And even physical attributes, but those impact how you like interact with the world.
There's so many different things going on. There's the skill system where you have like 24 skills and like half of them are entirely mental based.
Yeah.
And like the way the skills work is that if you pass a check, they will like talk to you inside your own head and tell you, like, give you advice, which may or not be good advice.
Yeah.
There's also like your responses to people could have like, they could be like considered centrist responses or sorry cop responses or fascist responses.
I was a very sorry cop.
Me too. And as you accumulate these responses, the game will like ask you like, are you a communist? Are you a superstar cop? What are you? And if you say yes, then like it opens up more responses for like that kind of thing.
And also, so in addition to the skills and you developing those parts of your personality, there's also thoughts that you can internalize. So like to what you're saying, like if you start to go down the road of like having sort of communist thoughts or whatever, it may give you an idea for an economic system that's like that world's analogy for communism, that stand-in for Karl Marx that they have, whose name I forget right now, but and you basically internalize it in your head and you like kind of mull it over for like an amount of time. Like some of them are really long, like you have to think about this for a day and a half, but once it kind of matures, it's like a fixed belief in your head.
And the way time passes in the game is entirely based on dialogue.
Yeah.
Like you can just run around forever and no time will pass, but like while you're in a conversation, time
doing
will pass.
Actions, basically.
Yes, and every time you're talking to someone, you're advancing some part of the story.
I'd be very interested. I don't want to break the magic a little bit, but it's one of those games where I wonder just how much like magic is going on under the surface, because I've heard some people talk about things that I like just didn't see or didn't interact with much, or like somebody said that they they made a fake name or whatever, which I think I did, but they kept running with the fake name and they were good at like lying, so they were passing a lot of checks.
Yeah.
And like I want to know how it impacts the game if like, or I saw somebody did a run where they played the whole game as like a huge fascist, and
Right.
I want to see how that impacts the game.
Yeah, and there's all these. So there's the passive checks where that just gives you suggestions during dialogue. There's also active checks where you can actually see the math. And when you fail
Yeah.
those checks, you have an opportunity to pass them later usually. But if you don't, then you can just miss stuff, and it doesn't really matter because there's so much. There's always like multiple things you could be doing. So like there's plenty of stuff that I didn't get back to doing.
Yeah.
Because I was just trying to get through the story because I was interested in what's happening.
I was trying to be completionist, but yeah, there was still stuff I missed.
Yeah, there's depending on which path you take with your character, like there's stuff that you're probably never gonna really do.
One of my favorite little interactions was, and I told you about this, but I didn't even have a very high authority stat. But you can see how having some of these stats can be both like a blessing and a curse. Because like I was walking by, it was on like day 2, and I was just walking by one of the sort of NPCs who doesn't really have dialogue, and my authority stat popped up, and it said, "Look, a common drunkard citizen, you know what to do." And there was an option like arrest him immediately and charge him for the crime, which is just to say, you know, my sense of authority was tripping out, and I was willing to blame any poor jagoff who was walking down the street. Anyway, I could keep talking about Disco for a long time, but you should check it out. You should play it. We're going to move on to our number 3. We're in the top 3. What's the name, Matt?
Control.
Control. The game with the worst SEO of all time.
Yeah.
I had to search Remedy Control every time I was trying to look something up.
Control game.
Control game, yeah. Well, even that is bad because you
It could
get
be-
game
you could-
controllers.
Yeah.
Control is one of those games that I did not know about, like, coming out at all. So when it came out and I heard all this buzz, I was like, I'm not playing anything right now, and threw it on, and it's fantastic. Max Payne creators,
Yeah.
right? Remedy, and also Alan Wake. Probably
Yeah.
more relevant to mention Alan Wake.
Also Quantum Break, but no one liked that one.
No one liked that one, so we're not going to talk about it. Quantum Break, Alan Wake.
Control.
Max Payne.
Yeah.
Control starts with your main character, Jessie, searching for her long-lost brother, who was taken from her family, or her, by the Federal Bureau of Control, which is sort of like this universe's sort of stand-in for the FBI, but just some sort of shady government
Well,
organization.
I think the FBI exists, but
Sure.
there's just like this other secret group.
Isn't there a group in the X-Files called something?
I haven't really watched that show.
Oh, God damn it. He's watched every TV show except for the X-Files. But they're sort of like Twin Peaks. This organization is more concerned with like just weird shit going down. And the game goes very like 0 to 60 because she walks into the Bureau of Control. It appears to be like vacant. She finds the director of the FBC, who shoots himself in the head as she's walking into his office. She picks up his gun, and through doing so becomes the new director of the FBC.
Yeah.
Like she immediately rescues some people who are like hiding away in a shelter, and they're all like, "Hey, you're the new director. What should we do? We're gonna stay here and research this. Why don't you go down to maintenance and help those guys out down there?" And everyone kind of just rolls with everything. Like Jesse's just like, "Yes, okay."
If it seems like a good way to find your brother if
I
the
guess.
people who took him are not want you to be their boss.
It's just funny to me that that's the scenario that unfolds, and it works within the context of the game. Like
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll roll with it. This is absurd." Like she's fighting sort of supernatural, like I guess you could say they're former workers of the FBC who have been like possessed.
Yeah, the hiss is like this unseeable like energy
Yeah,
shit that can possess people who work there and corrupt them
yeah.
and turn them into.
But they
enemies.
also seem like they might not. It's not like necessarily their physical bodies, or they're like weird echoes of themselves. Like when you shoot the ones that are floating up, they like explode in like a weird cloud of red dust.
It's weird.
So yeah, and that like great. So one of the things I love the most about the game is just like stylistically, it's like perfect. Like I kept wandering around this building, just getting like interested in brutalist architecture, and like I was like, man, they should bring back wood paneling. Wood paneling's awesome. I love the color of these folders. I mean, I'm a designer, so maybe that's just me, but
No, like the look of the game is very specific, and like it's cohesive and interesting.
And the sound design is good from like, so you end up getting these like sort of supernatural powers as you progress through the game. It's very Metroidvania in that way because by the end of the game you're doing stuff that I never would have thought you would at the beginning. I don't know how much I want to spoil that, but it's just like, the feeling in a Metroid game where you get like a double jump and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like very similar, but I'd say to a pretty strong degree. But the number one first thing you're kind of getting is like this ability to like throw telekinesis, pull objects towards you and throw them at enemies,
which is a very fun power.
It's very it's like when you start playing the game, the shooting, like it feels all right. You're like, this is okay. But then as soon as you unlock that, you're just like, oh yeah,
it's like throwing filing cabinets at people.
Makes that cool little.
Yeah. I also wanted to talk about the objects of power and all the memos in the game.
Yes.
Like the way the supernatural works in this game is there's lots of just like these normal everyday items, and like over time, I'm not sure exactly, but like there are these iconic items that because they're so iconic, like they have this just develop this power, and like you might have like.
Not sure if that's why it happens, but. Well, we can talk about this.
Well, it's like all the major ones are like iconic,
sure.
like a rubber ducky,
yeah,
or like a safe that you would have in your house,
or like this old 1950s toaster oven or whatever,
right.
like
a refrigerator,
yeah.
And they just all have these weird properties. Then like you find all these like documents that are like partially redacted.
Yeah. There's redactions all over the game.
Yeah, and like it's just like you just understand like the office politics of like these people. Like it's just their job to deal with like these household items that are going crazy and like disrupting entire towns.
So the game is heavily based on SCP stuff, which I don't know if you've dove into at all.
Yeah, I've read some of that.
And like and also creepypastas. Like it's got a lot of like internet fake conspiracy theory stuff going on in it. And I mean, some of these objects of power or whatever are just lifted straight from SCP, but it's cool that it's basically a video game where the SCP wiki stuff is like all real.
Yeah.
And what that would be like. So I hope they make more. I want to see more in that world and like I don't know, maybe see some stuff. I'm trying to think of what it would be if they were like on a case somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, you technically leave the building if you go to that the hotel. Whatever, we're going down a weird path. Anyway, Control's fantastic.
Yeah.
You should play that game. Let's talk about our number 2.
Another remake.
Another remake.
This time, a different kind of remake.
Different kind of remake. An RE make.
That's Resident Evil 2.
That's Resident Evil 2. The second scariest game of the year next to Outer Wilds. This was a just fantastic game. Capcom's really back on their bullshit, and they're doing it. They're doing it and doing it well. I feel like RE4 ushered in an era of bad RE. I mean, RE4 is great, but it made them think, oh, this is our hit action franchise, so we're going to really steer into that.
Right. I know what you mean.
And then RE7, I think, kind of after the debacle that was RE6, 7 kind of pivoted them back towards horror. I don't really know where to start other than to say,
the graphics.
It looks great. It's like when RE7 came out, it was like a breath of fresh air reminder that like the core concepts of Resident Evil still work really strongly. And I think RE2 is just it's like one of the best original RE games. So yeah, brought into the modern era and modernized in all these ways, of course, works super well. The basic zombie gameplay is cool. Seeing all the old locations is cool, but even the stuff that they add to it, like I remember being very conservationist with like the boards that I had that I could put up on the windows because I'm like I save scummed a little bit because there was this one window I wanted to put boards up on, and there was a zombie spawning outside of it, and so I was like, fuck, okay, if I run to that window and then he starts to crawl in, I can pop him one in the head, which should burst his head, and then put boards up. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I was like that's the level I was thinking about, like conservation and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it had a really strong balance between like the shooting feels good, but like you're not ever feeling too in
you're
control.
Not a powerhouse who's
you're always worried that you're gonna run out of bullets.
And sometimes you'll have like a boss fight or you'll have a big encounter where you're sitting like, on the throne, and afterwards you're like, fuck, I have like 5 bullets left.
There's the enemy that can pursue you throughout.
We can talk about Mr. X, I think. He happens fairly early.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's very pervasive throughout.
I didn't want to not say his name, but just
Do it. I mean, the game's fucking what, 22 years old.
I'm gonna say whatever. Mr. X is a giant man who you will meet at a certain point in the game, and he can just sort of follow you through the whole
Yes.
area that you're in, kind of relentlessly.
We need to give a sound design award just to his footsteps.
Yeah, you can like hear him if he's above you or like coming down the hall, and you're just like, fuck, I
It's
got out of here.
super intimidating, like rhythmic clomp and stomp of his feet.
And if you
get him
run-
getting closer and closer.
If you run, he can just follow you because he can hear you.
I do think, like, I don't know. Sometimes horror games like can be too relentless, and so I'm glad that things like the safe room exist,
Yeah.
even though it's a little silly. Just because like there needs to be a place where you can go to get the fuck away from him and just chill out for a second.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to see him like walk up to the safe room as you open the door and go into it, and then just like back off because like it wouldn't be cool to go in there, guys.
It wouldn't be cool. I'd be pissed.
Let's give him his space. But what's funny about Mr. X is I'm pretty damn sure that in the original RE2 he did not show up in the first playthrough.
No, he didn't.
So when the helicopter thing happened or whatever, I was like, okay, that's gonna be that next time. And then Mr. X fucking rolls the debris out of the way. And I was like, oh shit, we're
He's
doing
here.
this. So
Yeah.
that was a cool moment. You think RE3 is gonna be good?
I hope so.
Anyway, that's RE2. You should play that as soon as you can. But let's talk about the number one, the one you all came to see. All right, the one you came to see. Say its name, Matt.
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yes, very good. So I want to say to all the fucking haters out there that my original list was putting RE2 at number one, and Matt, fucking little weasel that he is, pressured me to put Sekiro number one. So it's not my fault.
I didn't pressure you.
Hidetaka Miyazaki game is number one yet again, but that's the world that we live in, and we're talking about Sekiro. All right,
I didn't pressure you.
you pressured me.
I just said I think this is the game of the year.
Matt twisted my arm behind my back. He's kicking me in the back of the leg. I go down on one knee, and he says, "Submit."
All right,
That's what happened.
that is what happened.
Matt McKeary countered me into putting Sekiro at number one. Sekiro is, of course, the new game by From Software and director of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki. Say that 3 times fast. 10 times fast. 3 is not that hard. And it's very good. It is a ninja game. And I would you call it a Souls-like?
It is Souls-like in its sort of design philosophy in some ways, but actually just playing it doesn't really feel like a Souls game.
When I first loaded it up, that was the thing that surprised me the most. Was I didn't feel like I mean I'm jumping around. You know, you feel much more mobile, and even the like sort of moment to moment combat doesn't really feel like Dark Souls.
It's much faster.
Much faster. The parries. I mean, the parries are super generous. Like it's a legit strategy. Just like
it's
mash
not
L1.
it's not a separate button from the block button,
Right.
like a Souls game.
And like
So you don't have to like commit to a parry. You just
Yeah.
can block it, and if you time it right.
it's also
deflect
still
it.
very difficult.
I mean, it's still hard because enemies are relentless and dangerous.
Yeah, but it's a different. It's
different
kind
kinda
of a
hard.
different style.
Yeah.
But I still think what's interesting is that it still has that element to me of like you are the experience points because, I mean, you don't gain levels like you did in a traditional Dark Souls game. You do gain skills.
You can increase your health bar,
and you can increase your health bar
you
and-
can gain
and your
stronger
posture bar.
attacks. Yeah,
But there's guys who, might give you trouble early on that afterwards you're just like, this dude is a fucking chump.
Yeah.
So I think you do still develop yourself that way. I feel like Miyazaki's games have gotten more and more focused. Like in Dark Souls, you're going to the lava area and you're going to the snow area and all this stuff. Whereas like Bloodborne and Sekiro, I've heard the complaint that like they're too samey. But I think it's just a more like refined vision of what this thing is, and
Yeah.
it's a feudal era Japan
yeah.
game.
Like there's, I thought there was a good variety in the areas. It's just
yeah,
they all fit the theme.
yeah.
Whereas
You're
the theme
going
of
through.
Dark Souls is broader.
There's a fucking level in Sekiro that's like Halloween Town from Nightmare Before Christmas. So
Yeah.
there's variety in there, and the designs are all really good, and just the like it's true of pretty much all these games, but like the boss encounters are super memorable, and like you and I have gone back and forth on this one fight that's like a real bitch with this one boss. And then you go back and you fight the boss again, and there's another one of the boss.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but the thing I remember is like fighting it the first time being like, man, I can't. How am I going to beat this thing? And then by the end being like, if I could just kill that other one, I would have this thing in the bag. And like getting to that point and just being like, oh, you's a bitch now. You in trouble.
Yeah, we've talked about before how like the feeling of beating a boss in a Miyazaki game is always great. But like I feel like in the other games it's more like, I did it, it's over, finally. In this game it's like you beat a boss and it's like, I'm the king of games.
I invented games. Yeah, like you it's a level of like mastery of their sort of you make them, you know what it is, I think, is that in Sekiro it makes you able to make them look like a bitch more because you like parry them and then you do a lot more like cool
like in Dark
counters.
Souls and in Bloodborne it's usually a good strategy to like pick your spots, you know, and like just wait for the opening and take it. But in Sekiro it's all about forcing the issue and making yourself an opening.
Forcing the issue like it's a debate.
It's like, no, it's like, I'm going to slam on you until you're open, and then I'm going to cut your head off.
It's like if you think Bloodborne is aggressive, Sekiro is like doubly so. And has voice acting with mouse moving, so that's a step forward.
It's a good game.
It's a great game. Some would say the best of 2019.
I'd say that.
Well, great. That's the whole list. We're done. Any honorable mentions?
Ape Out's cool.
Ape Out's cool. I haven't played it yet. Maybe I will before I put up this video.
Yeah.
If I do, insert opinion here. And then I'll like, I don't know, play a sound effect or do a text-to-speech about what I think about Ape Out.
Cool.
I probably won't do that, and then I'll just leave this part in.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Nah.
All right, cool.
Good talking with you.
As always. Now get the fuck out of my house.
All right.